Welcome to DorkDate podcast.
This podcast, we're going to talk about something very near and dear to our hearts.
Our pets.
Yeah.
In kind of honor of Sims 4 pets coming
Mostly because
out.
we're just kind of wanting to do an easy podcast that's,
Yeah, we took a break last week because we were kind of overwhelmed and didn't schedule properly ever anything in our lives. So.
And let me tell you something. 100% of our fans didn't care.
Because we don't have any. Anyway, okay, so today we're going to talk about our pets, current and former.
So, we're going to run through the list of pets we've had growing up pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a couple sentences about each one.
Yours is going to be a much longer list.
I got more
mine.
pets than you. Because my life growing up was joy and happiness, and your life growing up was sadness and boring.
I mean, basically, not that far off.
So...
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first since I have a shorter list?
I'll go... We'll go back and forth.
Okay.
All right, so the very first pet I kind of had in my life was named Max. And that was when I was a very young boy. When I lived in Arizona still. I live in Arizona now. But when I was born at the house, anyway, it doesn't matter. He was an Australian Shepherd, and he was kind of an old boy. And he would always steal my bagels out of my hands because I was a toddler and I couldn't handle that.
That's funny.
And he was pretty well behaved, and he had no tail. And he had
well, most of them don't,
just
right?
tailing. Well, a lot of times they do, and then they just die.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but isn't that what happened?
No, a
when
lot
he
of times
doesn't
they're
have
born
it?
without it.
No.
Yeah, they breed them without tails.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, and they still have like tails, like little nubs.
Yeah, I hate that.
And then
it freaks me out.
the only other thing about him is that he had puppies, and he broke out and had sex with a neighbor dog, and it was purebred. And my parents got to keep one of them, and her name was Magic, or Jicky for short.
Oh, I've heard of Jicky.
And he was his daughter, and they were very close.
That's
and then
cute.
she got hit by a car, and he was sad and tried to drag her out of the street.
Oh, that's extra very sad.
And she's buried right there.
She's in the backyard?
Side yard.
Guys, no!
She's about 10 feet away from us right now.
Is that why Marco's always digging
No,
back
it's this
there, you
side.
think?
This side yard.
Yeah.
No, it's not like that. It's in the. No, that's not what Mako was doing right there.
Oh.
So the next animal I had that was
What
actually
a dark history this
my
house
first
has.
pet was Thumper.
Okay.
He was a bunny
You had a bunny?
for a couple months.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
his name was
never
Thumper.
knew
He was a
that.
little gray rabbit.
Do you name him after?
Yes.
What are you saying?
Fox and Hound or Bambi. I mean Bambi.
Bambi.
Yeah. He was
I've seen Bambi.
I'm very surprised.
If you didn't know, I haven't seen very
We got
many
a Disney podcast coming up. You just chill out, all right?
Disney movies.
So anyway, he was Thumper, and he was a little rabbit, and I was 3 at the time, and we just kind of let him roam around the house. Sometimes, like, we had a cage, I'm assuming, I don't really remember, and apparently he chewed on too much stuff and got wet tail and died.
What's a wet tail?
It's like a very common disease that rabbits get,
Oh.
and like chinchillas and stuff like that.
And it has a wet tail.
I don't know.
Oh. I almost got a bunny with my roommates
In Ames?
uh-huh.
Wow.
In my second and third years of college because they didn't want me to have a cat, and I was very sad about it. I needed a pet in my life. And I was just so sad, and they didn't want me to have a cat because they were allergic or said that they were allergic, and I was like, cool, I'll just get a rabbit, whatever. And I researched very heavily about getting rabbits and litter training them so that they could just be out. And it was yeah, it's feasible, but it's just a lot harder than litter training a cat.
Himself.
Yeah, and it was also they chew up all your shit, and I was like, no one's gonna like that. I didn't end up getting a rabbit.
Obviously. Yeah, so Thumper died after a couple months. I don't really remember. I mean, I remember having him, but yeah. So then, first pet that I had for a long time in my life was Stripes. He was a little orange marmalade kitty, like a golden tabby, and he had longer fur. I think a little bit shorter than Diesel, but still pretty long. And we got him at our old house, 610 Iowa. That's just the address.
Don't give out the address. I just had to blurb out an
It's
address.
fine, Kenya, right? That's not a street and address is not that clear.
Just stop giving an address. Okay?
Anyway, my old house, and then we moved, and when he was a kitten, the first thing he ever did was spill, because we gave him milk. I don't know why we gave him milk.
He was spill?
And and so I wanted to name him Spill. My parents were like, maybe you should wait a little longer to see if he does anything else, so you can name him that. And eventually named him Stripes, because he was stripy. I was 4, alright? So I didn't have very exactly.
I like Spill better.
He was Stripes, Spill, Sloan. All of our animals have middle names, except for later in life. We even put it on their pet records sometimes. And then we moved to the house, and my mom was terrified of cats. Like she hated cats. And this tiny little kitten would sit there and he'd pounce on her because kittens do that, and she would react because she'd get crazy and run around.
I'm dealing with that.
Yeah, and so he would corner her in the hallway at our house, and he would just like stare at her. And we'd come upstairs, and it was always so funny because it was this full adult being terrified by this little kitten, and she was just terrified. And eventually, she eventually developed a level of respect for Stripes because when he got older, he was like a very chilled out cat. He would just sit in our yard, kind of like statuesque, just like looking at everybody. He was very cool. And then one night he didn't come home, and he always came home like 1 or 2 days after being out. And we were like, shoot, what happened? And I was so sad because he was my first pet, and I was like probably 6 or 7 at this time. I think maybe a little older than that, because we had him for a couple years, and I stayed up for like 2 nights, like I'll barely sleeping those nights, like waiting outside, trying to see if I could see him, like coming in the window and stuff like that. It was too shit. And a couple months later, like a year later, we found out that our neighbor, my friend Jerron's older sister Alana, was stoned coming home one night, and she hit the cat, and the cat ran in the woods, and she's like, oh, he ran, he's fine. And then he just never showed up again, and she didn't think to tell us because she was scared to get in trouble, obviously.
Yeah.
And so he died.
Yeah.
Probably. Most likely died. And then before he died, we had another cat. We got him. His name was Laser, because he was very fast as a kitten, but he was part feral, and the way they trapped him was he got taken away from his mother too young, and so he never got a really well-formed digestive setup going on, until he was very, 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 very sick growing up. Like he would vomit and have diarrhea all the time.
Did you feel very close to that cat because you were also always very sick?
No. I wasn't sickly in the same way. I was just sick all the time. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I was in a hospital bed all the time.
Yeah.
And one time I was at my babysitter's, and my parents took me to the vet, and the vet's like, listen, we need to put the cat down. Like, that's what's going to happen. And they were like, okay, do it. And they drove away. And then my mom was like, listen, I can't tell the kid that his cat died, so call the vet back. We'll pay whatever it costs. And he was like $3,000 to get him fixed.
No, and they did it?
He lived for like 11 years. Yeah. Yeah, and so they did, and then she had Mark call back, and they were like, "You can't kill the kitty, don't do it." She was like sobbing and stuff like that, because I don't think they had put a pet down in like a long time in their life. And yeah, and then he got really lazy. So instead of being laser, he was lazy, and he was just this really fat, rotund, very soft boy. And my parents always joke they would say he was gay, which is kind of sad now that I think about it. But they always say like he would never hunt because he'd be like, eek, a mouse. That was their whole thing. And so he was a very chilled out guy.
Sad.
Yeah, but he would just sit there and hang out, and he became an old grumpy man. He ran out of kitty. He looked just like that. He was a normal tabby. Okay, so I've told a good chunk of mine. Tell me some of yours.
Well, I'll just do all of mine at once. Because
Okay,
that's basically all I have is how much you've talked so far.
All right, gotcha. So Laser lived a long time. Laser lived longer than Stripes. He was...
How many more are there?
Oh, a couple. Like, we're almost half.
Okay. Oh my god. Okay.
So, yeah, Laser lived for a long time. I think my parents eventually put him down before they moved here. Like, before they moved here.
Oh,
that's how long he lived, yeah. Because he was just...
2 years ago.
3 or 4, yeah. Like, that's weird to think about. He feels like so much before that. He was just getting sick all the time, and he was old and slow and stuff like that, and probably scraggly. I hadn't seen him in a while. Or maybe he put him down before. I think it was while I still lived there, so maybe it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Either way, and so after that, we got Fox. And Fox only lived for like 2 months.
Yeah.
We got...
Elliot has this home video where he's like
That's Laser.
No, it was Fox. You made
sure?
a rap about him.
Oh.
He's like a douchey little like 4th grader, and he's taking this poor little kitten and just squeezing him around the belly and just making him do air somersaults with his hands. I'm acting it out for no reason. I don't know.
Yeah, he's flipping him over and over.
And he's like doing a rap about him, and this kitten's just like taking it, and it's just so sad.
Well, so he was the cuddliest, sweetest boy. I mean, he was to the point where I had really bad allergies growing up. I mean, I have very bad cat allergies. Basically, we decided, fuck it, I like cats too much, so I will just like have allergies. What?
Talk louder.
Oh, okay. Just say talk louder. Because this is the universal sign for fuck you.
No, it is.
It
not.
is. It's
not the universal sign.
Okay, well, it's like a very
fuck you.
commonly understood way to say fuck you.
Oh, okay. Well, project maybe.
All right, I'll project. So,
You're just getting further back and lower.
You know, Ken, you were talking about pet deaths, all right? It always brings up...
I didn't ask you to talk about pet deaths. I asked you to talk about the pets you've had.
Listen, chill out, all right?
Yes.
So we got Fox, and Fox was a orange cat with short fur, but he always kind of looked pinkish. Like, I don't know, Trevor always looked pink. I always thought he looked pink. And he was very, very cuddly to the point where he'd be in my room and just trying to jam his face into me all night. And at the age I was, I didn't really understand that he was just like loving. I thought he was just being annoying. And eventually we let all our cats outside. All of our cats, we had were indoor, outdoor. We lived on a not so busy street, so it was okay. I mean, obviously it happened with Stripes once, but that never happened to anybody else. And he was gone once, and he came back a couple days later, and he was very sick. And we took him to the vet, and basically what happens when cats can't get food for a long period of time, they start metabolizing their own insides, and that happened. It's like an irreversible process. You can't get him to eat after that. And so we had put him to sleep because, shoot, Fox. So after that was Figaro. Figaro was cool. He lived for a long time. I think he just never came home. Anyway, so Figaro was...
You're just making this as sad as possible.
There's life and there's death. So Figaro was this kitten, and he was black and white. And he looked like a tuxedo cat or whatever. And he was a sweet little boy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he was always very outdoors. And so he hunted all the time. And he had a crazy kill count. But he was also really nice, too. He wasn't super cuddly, but he also was not very standoffish. Figaro was baller. And then when he was a couple years old, my cats would always shit and pee in my neighbor's flower garden and stuff like that on the side of the house. And the neighbors hated it. And so we suspect that once she kicked him, because he came home one day and he could barely walk, and like he'd come home with cuts all the time because he'd get in fights with the cats and he was fine, but he had like a huge swollen like stomach where like there was a huge bruise with that, and we took him to the vet and they were like, it's not. He's like, okay, like it doesn't look like he got hit by a car because we could be worse than this. It looks like somebody may have kicked him. We're like probably fucking asshole neighbors, and eventually he got better and they just stayed like a big fat, like he had a big hang fat belly forever.
Ew.
It wasn't like gross. It was just like a little cat, but like he was always very fit before that, so it was weird. And I think he just he probably died, but he never came home one day. But he like lived like a long life. We were all pretty cool about that. And around that time we got Diesel D.
Diesel D.
So Diesel D was our second long-haired orange marmalade cat, and he is he's still alive. He's the lovingest boy ever.
He's too sweet.
Diesel he's just always purring. You pet him once and he's just going.
All he wants is to be petched.
Yeah, and he's kind of gross right now.
If you don't know, petched is the fun way to say petted.
Yeah. And he's just so lovey. He just always just wants to be petched. He reaches his paw to you and stuff like that. And Diesel was a very chill out cat. And so when we were young teenagers, we got him, and we would toss him back and forth between us.
So mean.
And again, he was fine with it because we never dropped him, and he was just he was the chillest cat ever.
Didn't Austin set him on fire once?
Unrelated. But yes, he did. We'll get to that.
On purpose, he did it?
I think so. I don't think he expected him to catch on fire. I think he was, yeah.
Kids are mean.
Kids are mean. But he was never, no wait, just to be clear, we set him on fire, but he wasn't like on fire. Like his tail for a second caught a flame and they put it out immediately. Nobody got burnt. It was just burnt hair. Everybody was fine. I just want to make sure.
Don't torture your pets.
I don't torture my pets. But what this whole tossing back and forth thing was probably borderline. And so we would take videos and then we'd play them on the PlayStation. And the PlayStation had a slow motion feature on the PS3. So we'd watch in slow motion. He'd be like playing there. But he was cool. He never ran from us.
Hey, that's so fucked up.
It wasn't like we were watching him die in slow motion. He was just, the cat was fine. He was really just fine.
Yeah, okay.
And so that was Diesel. He's still alive. Diesel's probably 8 now. Probably 8 years old.
I don't know. He's sweet though.
He's a little ragamuffin, and he's just too sweet of a boy. And so after that, we had another cat for a long time. I'm talking about cats only, aren't I?
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, I'll come back to dogs.
Oh my god.
I only got 2 dogs, Kenya, besides Max. All right, so after that, we got Athena. Now, Athena was a stray. She was a little gray and white kitten who came.
Her before Grave?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
That doesn't make sense.
I'm pretty sure.
Because you said that she got pregnant like right after you got her.
Yeah, we had a couple months after, like a month and a half after we got her. No, we had for like probably a month. She got pregnant.
I think you got Griff
She got pregnant. No, we didn't. I promise you. I promise. We didn't get her first.
The timeline doesn't match up. But keep going though.
No, because the kittens were a month old when she died. Spoiler alert. So she got pregnant, and this cat was crazy, and my parents were really big on feeding her pure meat. Like, they'd get her cans of chicken and stuff like that, and just get whatever. Because she was a stray, so we didn't really care about, like...
Do you think that she went crazy? Like the tuna madness or whatever? We almost never
gave her tuna.
But, like, the same thing. Because the whole thing about, like... So, if you give your cat human-grade tuna, like, too much of it, there's something that we put in it that they don't put in just...
It's mercury.
No, it's different in, like, normal cat food. Because they make, like, tuna cat food, and they make... cat grade tuna, and it has less of something. And it might be mercury, but I don't think so. And the whole thing is that, like, if they get too much human grade tuna, they basically just, like, go fucking crazy and they won't eat anything else.
Nah, that wasn't what she had. She ate normal food too. She was also liked human food, and she was very aggressive. She was most like partially
Maybe
feral.
she wanted
I think.
tuna.
No. She was partially feral, and she was like again hyper aggressive. I mean, she would tear you to shreds. But I eventually was the first person to ever get her to like sleep and chill out and stuff like that. And I would just take a lot of time with her and let her sit in my chest, and whatever. And then eventually we noticed that she was getting really hungry. Like my parents would be by the fridge, and she would sit there and just freak out until they fed her, like much more than a hungry cat. Like it was like it was like a need. And after a couple weeks, we were like, "Hey, you're pregnant." We could tell she was very pregnant, and we were like, "Wow, super cool." Because she was a stray. We didn't get her spayed or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
We were planning on it, but we'd only had her for like a month and a half at this point, and she was just kind of like the cat that fell into our lap. And then she had 3 little kittens, and those kittens were Alistair, who was a gray little poof boy, and then we had Hans, or Bootstrap, as my mom called him, and he was a kind of stripy gray little boy. And then we had Bridget, who looked just like her mom. We called it a little girl though, because she looked just like Athena, and she was gray and white too. And they were 3 little kittens, and they were happy and sweet and whatever. And then they got adopted, and except for Graybles, and we kept him. Alistair. His name is actually Alistair. But we started calling him Gray because he was so gray, and that was his thing. He was gray all over, like his nose, everything. And he became one of my best buds ever. And eventually, when they were about a month old, his mom died. And just before this, when they were still very young, or maybe while she was still pregnant, but I know we got Griff after her. Because Griff was very young too when this wasn't happened. He was only like 3 or 4 months old. My mom's birthday came around, and my friend had a tabby Siamese kitten like litter mix, and so I went and took one, gave her to her, and we named him Griffin, and he was a terrified little boy. First time we ever got him, he hid up in the steering wheel of the car, and he was covered in grease, and it was really sad. Anyway, so my mom fell in love with this cat, and it was the very first cat that she ever like truly like loved. She started sleeping with him and stuff like that, and it finally broke her like fear of cats. She'd mostly been okay with cats because we obviously had so many. And then Athena, Alistair, and all the kittens' moms died, and they were just old enough to be on dry food because we had already started weaning them off and stuff like that. But for a couple weeks after that, they would nurse on Griff. However, Griff was a boy, and so they would just sit there and suck his belly fur, and it would get all wet and gross. Cute. And you could see, and Griff would just lay there like, "Chess, I love this." And the kids would be like, "Chess." It was very mutual. And then for a long time, Griff, Laser,
Griffin Thomas,
Diesel, and Graybles, Alistair, were best buds. Griffin was a very cute kitten. He was a seal point.
Very cute.
Yeah, very cute kitten. He's a little less cute these days, but he's older.
He's still very cute. He's just kind of like dirty.
And chunky.
Yeah, chunky.
Yeah.
But that's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
He's still very cute.
So, that was all the cats I had when I lived in Iowa. And like I said, eventually Laser got put down.
Talk about your 2 doggies.
So, when I was 10 years, no, before I was 10, when I was like 7, I think, or 8, I was doing piano. I played piano when I was a kid, and I was like grumpy and not wanting to do piano lessons. And my parents were, "Okay, we'll like practice. We're going to go. Like, we'll be right back," basically. And they were just driving around the block, I guess. And they saw this border collie puppy in the yard of someone's house nearby. And my mom was like, "Stop the car. Get out. Ask how much that dog costs." And the guy was like, "Well, my dad breeds dogs, but this is my dog." And Mark's like, "I'll pay you whatever you want for it. Just let me have it." And so they bought the dog for him for like, I think like $800 or something like that.
That's insane. I just can't imagine.
They were making a lot of money, right?
Not even that. I can't imagine seeing a dog and thinking, I want to buy it off of the person who already owns it.
Well, they mostly just want to ask.
And then also like being that person and thinking, yeah, I'd rather have the money than this dog I already have.
Well, again, I mean, he was sad about it, but he just got him a couple days before, and his dad breeds border collies, so there was tons. You know what I mean? He could have gotten one. He probably did get a new one the next day. You know. So it wasn't like they had that connection yet, nor was it like this specific one he picked out or anything like that. He just took one. And so my parents came home with his puppy, and I was like, wow, I've never had a dog in this portion of my life, and I was so happy about him. And his name was Jack, and he was a little border collie, and he was the best. Jack was awesome. Jack was kind of big for being a border collie, like a little stocky, and he was like a bed dog, and he thought he was a lap dog. He would always lay on and stuff like that. He was pretty well trained. He knew a couple tricks. He was cool and fast. He would leap for a frisbee and catch it. Jack was like very athletic and stuff like that. Once he got really injured because he was running over a bridge, and he got his feet stuck between the panels of the bridge, and like I think fractured his leg, and he was terrified of bridges ever since after that. Like he just knew any sort of bridge that wasn't like completely solid surface, he would like, nah, I'm good. So that was pretty interesting because he was a smart dog, and it was like cool. I don't know. Cool that he learned that. And a couple years after that, when I was 10, we went to Texas, took a whole family trip. And on the way back, my parents apparently had been looking for another dog, and they didn't tell the kids. And we stopped in Oklahoma, and we got Elsie, who was another Border Collie puppy. Very little, probably a little too little to leave her home, but she was okay. And we drove all the way back home with her in our car, and like 10-hour drive. And eventually they had puppies together. And so she had 6 puppies. One died when she was giving birth to it. She had started digging a hole under our sidewalk in our backyard to try to prep to have the puppies, and it started raining the night she was giving birth, and so they had like filled up with water and like they were drowning.
That's not how it died, though.
No. So we went there, and well, the puppies that were already there, she'd already dealt with properly. The only one that died was
No,
the
I
one,
know, but
yeah,
you
yeah.
made it sound
Sorry.
like they were all dying.
So we heard them yelping. We went outside and we got the puppies out of the filling up hole. We got her, I put them in the shed where we had a whelping pen already set up, and then she sat
Is that
there.
what you call it?
I think it's called a whelping pen, yeah. It was basically a swimming pool with blankets in it.
Yeah.
And so the 2 puppies were like hanging out, living their little puppy life. And then there was one more she had while we were watching them, and she was so distracted she didn't take the what's the sac called around the baby?
Amniotic fluid, placenta.
Placenta. Yeah, I was thinking amniotic fluid. That's not right. She didn't take the placenta off the puppy's mouth, and so it suffocated. And we left her alone for that because we were like, okay, she's too distracted. And then she had 3 other puppies. It was great. So there's 5 puppies. And then that summer,
You didn't help it?
we tried. We had the neighbor come over. She had raised dogs before, and she like gave us CPR and stuff like that.
Aww.
And it didn't. It even twitched a little bit when she was giving CPR, like it was trying.
Oh, that's very sad.
You asked her.
Well, you shouldn't have given me the whole truth.
Yeah. So anyway, so she was a pretty good mom, and she would never let Jack come near the puppies, and he was like kind of mad about it, like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what's this deal? And then the puppies got real big and fat and burly, and we never had papers for Jack, so we couldn't prove that he was purebred, even though he was. We're like 90% sure. So we were asking like I think like $800 or $900 for most of the dogs. We ended up selling them for like $300 or $400, and then I think the last ones were like $200 because they were getting older and stuff like that. But that summer we. My sisters were there, and so everybody had a dog that they all named, and I named mine Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! My names were not much better at that point in my life. And Rebecca and Jessica.
I would argue that your names aren't very good now either.
Alistair's a fine name, Kenya. So
yeah,
is Artemis.
Name everything with an A. Elliot.
Athena, Alistair. Yeah, okay, get out of here, right? Whatever. And so.
If you could change your name, would you choose to be Elliot instead?
So anyway, the puppy I named was Kaiba.
Yeah.
And he was sweet. And then my sister, who I was very close, I mean, I'm still very close with, but like I am much closer with one of my sisters than my other sister. We hung out all the time because we were closer in age too. Mm-hmm. She named her puppy Livy or Libby or something like that. I don't remember. But those puppies hung out all the time. Crazy, right? They did. And so there was another puppy named Angel. That was my sister Jessica's dog, and she was like kind of. Jessica's classically ditzy. Jessica's not stupid, but people treat her that way, I think, sometimes. Mm-hmm. She's a little bit. Airheaded. She's just not airheaded. She just does. She's not quick to grasp jokes and stuff like that. And the dog.
Neither are you.
Yeah, but I was not that bad. I mean, I'm sure you think that because you live with me, and I'm always. So anyway.
And I dole out top tier humor that consistently goes over your head.
Yeah, because you're a tastemaker of jokes, can you?
Yeah.
And so the puppies always push Angel over the ledge to our backyard, and she would like fall and be all puppy, like chunky and cute. And then my mom named her puppy Mimi, after her grandma. Also, Elsie was named after her grandma.
No, after her mom.
After her mom, sorry, after my grandma. And that puppy always hung out with Zeus, Mark's puppy. And Mark's puppy got really big and chunky. It was cute. And so it was just fun because they all had they all felt like they had similar
reflective.
Yeah.
Of your family.
Mm-hmm. And that was basically it. We never really heard about what happened to the puppies. And then Elsie was like kind of cool. Elsie's kind of a cool dog, but Elsie also was very, very, very hyperactive in her youth and like in her life still.
Even now, yeah. She's like
just
very old and like getting to the point where like, you know, old things stop working as well, you know. So like parts of her body are like just breaking down like old people and old dogs do.
Yeah.
And she's still just very like
energized.
if you see a leash, if she sees you touch a leash, she just
triggered,
starts
like,
freaking out and like shaking and like running all around and like
she,
stomping her little
and she
feet.
like screams. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of running, she just stomps her feet.
We call her a tap dance. That's what she would do. She would just sit there and go back and forth. And Elsie was just so energetic, and she also had a very submissive relationship with our dog Jack, and Jack would always Jack was I think, irritated by her. I mean, I'm maybe just putting human emotions on it and stuff like that, but like, she was always on him, like always head on his butt, just like always like constant, like she's like a shadow, and he'd always like snap at her, but like chill the fuck out, get away from me. And so she was very fast. I mean, she was much more like classic border collie in size and stuff like that. And we always tried to like teach her how to frisbee and stuff like that, teach her to chase stick. And even when we started taking her by herself, she just didn't know how to do it. Her entire life she'd always been a second dog, and so she never really understood how to be her own dog. And so a couple years later, when Jack finally died, we were hanging out at my house one night, and we heard this yelp. We went out back, and Jack had a stroke, is what they eventually realized, and it caused him to get paralyzed. And he had a bladder infection for a while because he was getting older and he was peeing all throughout the house. We didn't know what was wrong. We probably should take him to the vet, stupidly. We found out that he had a bladder infection, and so he wouldn't know that he had to pee. He would just be in pain, and then eventually he'd let it all out. And so it was sad. But yeah, and so he had a stroke, and he was running, and he like twisted his legs. I don't know. He was paralyzed. It was a bad scene. We put him to sleep a couple days later, and his final meal was a bacon wrapped cheeseburger, and he got to eat the greasy paper towels afterwards because he was way into paper towels.
Oh,
yeah,
that's kind of sweet.
I was there when they put him down. His tongue came out.
Don't tell me that.
It's kind of sweet though. I like that part about his tongue coming out. It wasn't dead. It was just when he was chilled out. But because they gave him the chill out stuff first, and then they.
That was mean to
I didn't think that was mean to tell you,
that.
Karen. I'm sorry.
Because I'm just thinking about, like, putting our own animals down, because I've never had to do that.
Yeah. I know you have.
And I don't ever, like, part of me is, like, I want to be there with them to make them feel better, but, like, if it was up to me, I wouldn't be there. I would just say, okay, that's what's happening. You're being put down now, you know? I don't know. But then, like, I read that one, like, Reddit post, like, oh, as a veterinarian, like, just so you know, when you walk out of the room, your pet always looks for you and, like, wonders where you are, like, when we're putting it down. And it's so sad. It is becoming much more of a sad podcast than I wanted to. Why'd you tell me his tongue came out? Like a fucking cartoon.
Thought it was funny.
Like a cartoon. Like, oh, I'm dead, my tongue's out.
It wasn't when he was dead. It was when he was chilling out.
Well, maybe you could have clarified
Well, I'm sorry, they
earlier.
gave him muscle relaxers, and so his tongue came really far up. Anyway...
Too sad.
After that, Elsie was very depressed for a couple weeks, naturally, because he was like her husband or whatever. But then she became much more into her own. She was better on leash.
Did you ever get them fixed after that?
Yeah, we got them both fixed after that. Yeah. We didn't want any more.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, excuse me. She just was much more enjoyable to have around the house because I think she realized, like, hey, I can be my own animal. And then she's always kind of weird with the dogs after that. I think she always thinks that someone's going to try to dominate her and, like, take her place or whatever because, like, she doesn't want to go back on that role. Yeah, so that's all the animals I ever had except for...
The ones that we have now.
Yeah, so we can talk about that.
And Elsie's still alive. But she's more than 10 years old. I mean...
She's 23, or 13, I mean.
13, yeah. So she's getting up there. Probably close to her being gone soon, too. Okay, so let's talk about my dog since half an hour
27
was
minutes.
spent on just the ones that you had when you were a kid. Can you believe that?
No, all these were ones I had as an adult, too.
But, like, growing up.
Yeah. I had a lot of pets growing up, and that's not even talking about my iguana. Oh, wait. An iguana named Ziggy. He was an iguana. He was an asshole.
And you've had fish?
My family has had a fish tank for a lot of our life.
I didn't think about fish.
I also had I've had ants, and I've had butterflies and moths and stuff like that too. And then I also had 2 miniature hamsters. Figaro ate them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Figaro was a hunter, man. He was like, all right, well, this is for me, right? It was funny because one time Figaro grabbed Ziggy. And
with the tail? Is that...
Yeah, that happened actually separate. So a couple times he grabbed Ziggy.
Oh, okay.
And it's crazy because when iguanas get really freaked out, they get really dark. Like he turned like dark green and like was mad. And because he'd escape his cage and then he'd be in the laundry room. The cat would come and be like, "Oh, cool lizard." But he was like 3 or 4 feet long when he finally died.
Scary.
He actually escaped and got hit by a car a couple blocks away.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, and then I think I had a ferret. So I had this ex-girlfriend, and
It sounded like extra
I
girlfriend.
had this extra girlfriend on the right. I had this ex-girlfriend, and I don't remember the exact thing, but I think
you had this girlfriend. You have this ex-girlfriend.
I had this ex-girlfriend. I had this girlfriend. Thanks, current girlfriend, for specifying everything. And basically, for Christmas one year, I was like, "Hey, do you want a ferret?" And she was like, "Yeah."
Because kids should give each other pets.
Yeah, terrible idea. And so I don't know how we paid for it. I'm sure my parents helped. But I got her a ferret, and then she took it home, and her mom was like, "You're not fucking keeping this cat, this animal at your house."
Ferret.
And so then,
Not a cat.
Yeah, sorry, this animal at your house. So then I had a ferret.
Stupid mom.
this is what cats look like. So then I had a ferret, and his name was
Ferret.
Jesse.
Tiffany.
His name was Jesse, and I was like, "That's just a douchey name. What is he like? Some just grimy guy?"
Uncle Jesse.
Yeah, I don't know. And,
You should have named him Uncle Jesse.
No, and so he smelled awful, as most ferrets do,
Sorry.
and he died. He got sick and died. I don't know.
Do you think that, how many of your pet related deaths do you think are caused by your family's negligence?
I mean, probably a good amount.
Well,
Probably, I don't know,
like do you think that the ferret actually got sick and died, or do you think you just like stopped taking care of it or something?
I was gone when he died. I was at camp.
Oh. Do you think that your parents just forgot about him and didn't
No.
take care of him and he died?
No, they fed him. I think he got sick.
Oh.
And they did take him to the vet, because fuck it.
Maybe they just sold him.
No, I remember. It was they wouldn't let me better, I don't think.
You don't think?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, probably a good portion. Jack, probably. Just because we should have known that he had a bladder infection.
Mm-hmm.
But he would have died anyway. I mean, he's getting old.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
got very grumpy in his old age. Like, you tell him to get to bed, he'd growl and nip at you, and I was like, Jack, chill the fuck out. He was a big dog. I mean, as big as Mako is now, so not huge, but yeah. So anyway, that's all my animals I had growing up as far as I can remember.
All right. You ready for another half hour?
Well, it might be because we have other animals now.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't really have any animals until I was in like 3rd grade probably. I was told about other animals that my parents had and that my like sister and brother had when they were growing up. But I think that my family, and I'm coming to realize this as I'm getting older and stuff, are very like negligent in their animal taking care of caretaking, whatever I want to say. And are kind of just neglectful to their animals. Like, I was talking to my mom about a dog that they had before I was born, and they were like, yeah, I think we probably abused him. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, we just like kept him out back always, and he was just mean, so we like never interacted with him. And he was probably mean because we just kept him out back always. And I was like, oh no. I was like so sad. And she was like, yeah, and he was all matty, and like I think they ended up just like getting rid of him and giving him to someone else, which is good. They didn't just like put him down, but I don't know. It's just like that story over and over with every story that they have. Oh, the dog was mean, so we got rid of it. Even though I'm pretty sure they were probably just like bad to it. And I'm seeing that more now, like seeing my dad interact with Mako and stuff, because he is like more of an aggressive dog person.
Your
Like,
dad, not the dog.
yeah. Like, not like he likes aggressive dogs, but he's like if the dog doesn't sit, he like yells at him, and then he'll like grab at him and stuff, and like Mako thinks he's playing, but he's also like just getting louder, and that doesn't help the dog, you know. And I like, we've trained him very like calmly, and like, okay, sit, and then he'll do it, and we'll tell him again, or we'll like push his butt down a little bit. But my dad's very like fear me kind of, which I don't recommend, but it's up to you. Anyway, so the first animal I had was a fish. And I'm just remembering this, talking about your fishies. And I remember me, my brother, and my sister got a fish, and we kept them all in the same little tank, and they were all just goldfish. And I remember that I named mine after one of, like, the radio morning talk show guys.
That's a weird you thing to do.
I don't remember his name, but I remember thinking, like, oh yeah, he has his own radio show.
You're imaginative.
just like, well, but it's not imaginative. I took it from the radio show that my mom always listened to on the way to school. I don't know. It was funny. Just like some random, but it would be like naming him like Ryan Seacrest, but if he was on local radio.
Like Bob and Tom?
Yeah, I guess. Fuck Bob and Tom, dude.
Fuck Bob and Tom.
Anyway, so yeah, and I remember they would like slowly die off, and we would joke that my dad like wakes up in the middle of the night and eats stuff, and we would joke that he was eating them in his sleep, even though they would like be dead and we would see them. I don't know. We would joke that he was eating them each night and he'd wake up. Hey, Mako. Mako has joined us. Special guest, Mako. You have anything to say? No, just breathing. And then the first real pet I remember having, I had a couple fish, like, after that. I had, like, a school project where we had to take a water bottle and, like, cut the top off and, like, fill it with rocks and different water. And then we'd have, like, a little tiny fish that lived in there.
Weird. Sounds abusive.
Yeah, it does. Because it grew to be, like, almost the size of a goldfish. Like, a small goldfish. And then it died, and I had to just, like, throw it in my... And they didn't give us, like, food. It was, like, a school project, so they gave us enough food while we were at school. And then they were like, okay, anyone whose fish is still alive, you can take it home. And they didn't give us food, and my parents never bought me fish food. I think it just starved. And it's just, like, really fucked up. They were like, well, it's gonna die anyway. And I just, like, threw it in my yard, whatever. What? Like, after it had died.
Oh.
No, not when it was alive. That'd be sad. But I didn't, like, flush it for some reason. I thought it would be better because I wanted to bury it, but I also didn't dig it a hole.
You just put it in the yard.
Yeah.
This is where it lives.
I don't know. We had a big yard, so it was fine.
So it's okay.
Like, it wasn't, like, right outside the door or something.
Yeah, but...
Anyway, guys, when I was in 3rd grade, I was like, guys, I need a cat. We're getting a cat. Let's get a cat. I don't remember where it came from, but we got a cat. It was just little and black, and I wanted to name it Fluffy because of TV. There's just always girls having cats named Fluffy. And even though it wasn't fluffy, like, at all, it was just, like, a normal cat. And my brother and sister were like, no, it's our cat, too. We're going to name it something else. And it took them forever to figure out what they wanted to name it. But eventually they decided on Kit, and I was like, no, I don't want to name it Kit. And they wanted to name it Kit because it was a kitten.
It's a shitty name.
Yeah. Do you want to let Mako out while I continue talking?
He's fine.
He's ringing, though.
Yeah, he's fine.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. We'll talk about this.
If he rings again.
Sure.
We have, like, a little bell on the door. Whatever. Anyway. Kit was kind of a sad cat because she eventually... He just rang again.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
She was like an indoor-outdoor cat, and she, like, just started getting mangy, and I found out that it was mange, like, later on. I just didn't know what it was before that. And I always thought it was my fault because we, like, would put her out in the garage, and then the garage had, like, a doggy door, and that's where her, like, food and water was, in the garage. And so she could, like, come in and out, but still be, like, warm. And, like, one day when I was putting her out in the garage, I, like, hit her butt with the door on the way out and, like, scooched her, and that's where she first started getting mangy, so I always thought that it was kind of my fault, and that was sad. And then she got, like, really mangy, and her teeth were, like, falling out. But then I think that was because she was a kitten, after I thought about it. And I don't know. Anyway, it got, like, pretty bad, and we weren't allowed to touch her because she was, like, really gross. And she would always, like, I had a dog at the time, which I'll get to in a minute. But she would always, like, run under his leg as he was peeing and stuff, and it was, like, really weird. And eventually we took her and got her put down because she was just, like, so sick. My family, again, I already talked about this, they're not the kind of people that are going to take their animals to the vet.
And, like, do anything about it other than putting
yeah. So they just kind of were like, okay, well, if she doesn't get better, then I guess that's it for her, you know. And we didn't have, like, a kennel or anything, like, no crate to put her in, so we took her in a beer box. Isn't that so sad?
That is so sad.
And trashy. Ugh. Like, at the time, I was just like, oh, we're taking her, you know, whatever. And, yeah, it was terrible. Anyway, also, I forgot that I had a dog since preschool, so... we had this dog named Nimbus. My dad always really wanted a dog, and he still really wants a dog because we don't have this dog anymore. And, my mom finally got it for him for, like, his birthday or something like that. Like, a late birthday present. Because I think we got him on Valentine's Day, or maybe, like, that was when he was born or something like that. The 3rd of February. And his name was Nimbus, and he was very cute.
How was he?
He was a Keyshound.
Floofy?
He was very floofy. That's why his name was Nimbus, because he looked like a Nimbus cloud. He was a good boy.
That's a good name.
Mm-hmm. I don't know who named him. He was a good boy, but And apparently he was, like, pretty well trained. I don't remember. But we would always, like, have to walk him and stuff. And, like, never send just, like, a kid to walk your dog by themselves because he would just, like, pull. And I'm, like, this tiny little, like, 8-year-old child, you know?
Yeah.
And I would just get so sick of it that eventually I would take him to the nearest tree. If he didn't pee, immediately I would drag him back in. Like, and I was strong enough to drag him, but he would be pulling away. And it was just, like, sad. I don't know. And so eventually we, like, moved a lot when I was a kid. And in one of our moves, he, like, forgot all of his potty training. And he got, like, really sick and was, like, having diarrhea everywhere. And so after that, because he just kept peeing on all of our furniture, my parents just kept him tied to our table in our kitchen. And so, depending on the house, he either had a good amount of room or barely any room.
So it was multiple kitchens.
Yeah. It was, so in one of our houses, it was a very small kitchen, and so that was sad. And then in another house, it was, like, a very big room. It was, like, probably the size of, like, our dining room kitchen area together right now. But it was sad. And growing up, like, I was in 2nd grade when that started. So, like, as, like, a 7 or 8-year-old kid, you're just like, okay, well, that's the decision we're making, and this is where his room is now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't realize that. But now, as an adult, I'm like, that was fucked up. Why'd we keep him tied to our table, you know? And part of me is like, well, at least he wasn't outside, because we did have a lot of yard for him to go to. And we could have easily done that. But still, not a good life for a dog. And eventually, he started running away a lot, and he ran away. And eventually, I think my mom had, like, my brother, while my dad was out of town during their divorce, like, go drop him off somewhere. And he probably died. But, like, sad, petty, bad pet ownership, you know, all around. Then, when I was in 4th grade, we got Kitty Girl.
Kitty Girl.
Uh-huh. And she was alive when Nimbus,
She's alive now.
Nimbus was alive when she was alive. And they would hang out, and since he was tied to the table, she would come in and, like get on his back and, like, claw into him and, like, ride him around because he would hate that. And it was really funny. And we got her in, like, 2003, I think, and she's still alive, and it's 2017, so she's, what, like, 14?
What does she look like, Kenya?
She's just, like, a normal cat. She's just stripy, like, brown, gray, black, stripy.
She's a tabby.
Yeah, tabby. And she's cute. She was always a very good cat. When we first got her, she came from, like, a weird, like, kind of a bad home, and, like, the door, like, wouldn't shut, and it was, like, in downtown, and it was just, like, really loud, and they were like, all animals gotta go, no questions. It was really weird. It was, like, a family, I don't know. It was a weird situation. And my mom told us later that because she doesn't ever deal in boy cats because they spray. But even though we ended up getting her fixed, like, I don't know. She told us later that she got her because, 1, she was the only girl, and 2, she was the runt, and she was hoping that she would just die. And
That's
then we
so
wouldn't.
fucked up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. My mom's kind of fucked up.
That's just a horrible thing to say.
Yeah, it is. You know, your lead-in of the show of my life was wonderful and happy, and all my pets were really good, and your life was sad, not that far off. But yeah, so that happened, and eventually we got her fixed, and the doctor said that when he was in there, he found, like, a giant, like, sausage tumor. And, like, he was like, yeah, if we didn't take this out, she would have gotten sick within, like, the next week, and she probably would have died within a month. And I was like, what? That's crazy. And he, like, didn't ask. He just took it out. My parents were kind of mad because it, like, cost them more, I think. I don't know. It was a weird situation. And then during that time, like, when we were getting her fixed, we found a dog under our porch. It was, like, growling a lot, but it was, like, just a little puppy girl. And she was, like, a golden lab or something, or a golden retriever. And she was so cute, and her name was Goldie. And
you guys have the most inventive names ever. Jesus.
But she was really well trained. She knew sit. She was good at fetch. And we could, like, let her out the back door, and she would go pee and come right back. And I don't know where she came from, and I don't know if my parents tried that hard to find out. They, like, kept her for probably, like, a week or 2, and my dad really liked her because she was well-trained, and Nimbus wasn't, and that was during the time when he was tied to the table, and Nimbus wasn't fixed, so he was always trying to mount her, and she was always mad about it. And it was just, like, sad, but she would, like, get to hang out with us all over, and then eventually, like, one day she was in my sister's room, and she, like, pooped on her white carpet, and she was, like, mad about it, and she, like, threw a big fit, and then they were like, okay, we're just gonna take her to the pound, so then they did that, and I always blamed Jasmine. I was like, she was a good fucking dog, why'd you have to go and blow it? And then, yeah, and I remember when we were getting Kitty fixed, I was supposed to stay outside with her, because we brought her along for some reason, and we were just, like, walking around the yard of the vet place, and this car kept driving past and, like, circling and driving, and in my mind, as a kid, I was very afraid of getting kidnapped, so I figured, like...
You're still very afraid of getting kidnapped.
Yes, always. But as a kid, I was very afraid of getting kidnapped. Like considering sleeping underneath my bed every single night so that they wouldn't find me and they just think, oh, she's in a sleepover. I was just, like, crazy. I never did that. I always wanted to, but I never did. And, I was outside and this car kept circling around, same car, back and forth, and I was freaked out about it. But now thinking about it, that was probably their dog. Or they probably, like, knew who that dog was, because we had, like, just found her, you know. Yeah. And they were near the vet, which was probably near the pound.
Yes.
But they didn't stop and talk to me, and I'm glad they didn't, because I think I would have freaked out. But anyway, we took her to the pet, and to the vet, to the pound. And that was the last animal we had. We had Kitty after Nimbus ran away and everything, or whatever happened to him. We had Kitty, and we still have her. After I went to college, my sister took her, and she still has her, and she's 14, loving it. She's getting saggy, so when she sits up straight, it looks like she has boobs, and all her like fur and skin just like pushes together. She's funny.
Yeah, and she's a sweet old lady, and it's funny too because she doesn't still like Kenya that much. Because when Kenya was a kid, she was very like.
Very handsy. I was too handsy with her. I would wrap her up in a baby blanket. I would shove her in a stroller.
One time you gave her a tube top.
I sewed her a tube top in a mini skirt. Too cute. She was still a kitten then.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, every time I saw her, I would like catch her and hold her and like pet her. And it was all out of love. I never hurt her, but it was just like she knew if she's in the room, I'm getting held down. And so I think she kind of still remembers that about me. So when I'm visiting Jasmine, she'll like let me, or my sister, Kitty will let me like pet her and stuff. But if I stay too long, she gets mean and she'll like bat me away and say no. And she, like, doesn't do that with anyone else. You know?
That's really funny.
Or, like, if I walk by, she'll, like, just all of a sudden attack my leg.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, whoa, Kitty, it's
Kitty,
okay.
why? I haven't done this to you in a long time.
She's, like, standing up for herself.
Yeah.
She's funny.
We can both enter the story now.
Well, yeah, okay, so.
What should we tell first?
I think we should go in order. So when Elliot moved here a couple years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago.
I only brought one animal. It was Alistair, the gray cat.
The gray cat.
And because he was my buddy.
And he was lonely, or so Elliot thought.
So he was energetic as shit.
Yeah.
And when I lived in Iowa, he used to be indoor-outdoor, and so he was much better behaved. He's still much better behaved when he gets to go outside, when he gets to expend his energy. Mm-hmm. He's a cat fighter. He'll go out and he'll get in fights consistently. Yeah. He hunts crazy. And so when he was here, he would just attack me all the fucking time. He was nuts. And I didn't really want to let him outside yet because I live in I live in a city now as opposed to living in a small town. And I live right next to a busy road, and so I didn't really want him. And I know they have a very bad feral cat population here in Arizona. So I had a lot of reasons for not letting him outside. And so I thought the solution would be get him a friend to play with. Get him a cat. Because he had friends back home, and he was pretty good with them.
Income Paulie
was her vet name. Eventually, I renamed
her
Paulette. Eventually, I renamed her to be Artemis, and eventually Kenya coined her name to be Doofy. Because she's Doofy. So
Doofy girl.
Obviously, Doofy.
So basically, Elliot got this cat. She was very loving.
Well, I want to talk about. She was very loving, very sweet cat. So wait, I went to the pound, and it was the coolest pound I've ever been at. It was like very clean and futuristic. And like her kennel or her thing that she's in was like a big closet-sized glass room with like 2 cats in there, and they had like a lot of vertical space to go around. It was awesome. And so I'm
picturing it being very futuristic, like everything's white.
It was all everything was like wood, nice. It was a very modern place.
No, I'm picturing it being like everything white with like crazy
like chrome
bright
stuff.
Lights overhead, and all the walls are white. Like in any like future building that you see in a movie, like everything's white all around. and then there's like splotches of color. Like I'm picturing like an orange footstool in the middle of the room that the kitties are just climbing on.
No, it wasn't modeling.
Don't ruin it for me. That's
sure.
what it is.
So I went up to this cat. She was sitting on the top of the cat tree, and I petted her. And she was like loving it. She was purring immediately, and she was a gorgeous, very large, like pretty large, long-haired, black and white cat.
Very floofy.
Very pretty, pink nose, like pretty eyes. Yeah, and so I was like, oh, this cat's awesome. Let's get it. You know, I haven't had a long hair since Diesel, and Diesel was still alive, but he didn't live with me. So I got her, and I was holding her the whole time we were doing signing the papers. And near the end, she was getting a little squirrely, but of course, you hold a cat for like 20, 30 minutes. She get nuts because it was a long process. They made me go through so much.
And she
shit.
was like 2 when you got her, right?
She was like 2. Yeah, about 2 years old when I got her. And I'd never got an adult cat before. I'd always adopted kittens, so I thought it'd be kind of cool to adopt an adult cat, you know, because adult cats don't get adopted very much. And so took her home, and we took her home in the middle of horrible, horrible traffic. And about 20 minutes into getting home in traffic, she shit in her kennel, and she shit all over herself. And so she's got pristine white fluffy fur.
She does, yeah.
And she got just...
white and black all over.
Yeah, and she just got disgusting. And so we came home, and she was just covered in everything. We had to wash her off. And so I put her in the bathtub, or the sink, I don't remember which, and washed her, and she hated that, obviously, because cats obviously, you know, don't like being washed. And she hid under a bed for like 2 or 3 days after that. And I was very sad about that, because we had this first awesome experience, and then she was like, fuck you, I don't want to see you at all. And so when she came out and lived more and stuff like that, and this is when you and I were dating. We were still long distance at the time. And eventually it turned out that Alistair liked Artemis, but Artemis didn't like Alistair.
Alistair is a piece of shit of a cat.
He's very
in
aggressive.
Personality.
Well, yeah, he's very aggressive.
And so, especially at this time when he wasn't being let outside at all.
He had so much extra energy. And so, with other cats, the other cats that we'd had in the household, they would fight back. If he would tackle them, they'd play. They'd, you know, throw each other around on the ground, and then they'd break it up. Artemis is a non-combative animal, and so she'd just sit there when she would take it. And so basically, he would terrorize her. He would hunt her throughout the house. He would leap at her, and so she was just scared and horrified of him. And she'd always sit there and wait for him to finish eating. And every time she'd play with the straw, he'd come in the room. And she would just sit there.
I'm telling that.
Okay, so anyway,
because that's later when I'm here.
Sorry, Karen. So eventually, Kenny came to visit.
Yeah, I came to visit, and
stayed here for probably a month.
I go up to Artemis, and she comes right up to me, and she loves on me. And Elliot was like, "That's the closest anyone's ever gotten to her."
Like I've pet her,
like
but
she never comes up to me like that.
Yeah, she never approaches me, and still to this day, she really does that.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." Like I didn't think anything of it. And then for some reason, like the first day I got here, you had to work immediately, so I like got here. I had taken a 36-hour bus to come see you. Fuck the bus, guys. Never take a bus that long. If you can avoid it, do it. Anyway, and Elliot had to work the first day that I was there, and I like take a shower, I sit on the couch, I'm like watching TV or whatever, and all of a sudden Artemis just jumps up in my lap and she's just cuddling on me. Yeah, and I was like taking pics of her like head to head with me and like laying on me and stuff and like being crazy and like laying on her back playing with my hands and stuff. And I was sending them to Elliot at work and he was like, "What the hell? Like this isn't my cat."
This has never happened. My cat's never.
Yeah, and so.
And cats like me generally. Cats are really cool with me. I mean, I'm good with cats.
This is like one of the only animals that like immediately has liked me too.
Yeah, because you're usually a junk animal person.
Yeah. I'm just kind of like scared of them, I think.
Yeah, and they sense your anxiety.
Yeah. Like I never really liked dogs because they just kind of freaked me out. But I always knew I could like a dog if it was my dog, you know. But and like cats I'd had since Kitty, you know, and she was like alive my whole life, so I don't know. Anyway, that happened, and eventually like I visited again like the next summer or something, and you still weren't letting him out, and they would like just completely stay on opposite sides of the house from each other. And Doofy, we found out, I named her Doofy because she was just funny.
Because she was laying her back, and she's this giant fluffy cat, and she'd sit there, and there'd be the biggest white stomach just exposed, and she'd have all 4 paws in the air, just like, look at me, hunt me, basically. And she was just so funny, and she just had the goofiest faces.
She did a lot of funny stuff.
She's a very silly animal.
Yeah. And I found out that she really liked straws, which I too really like straws, so she would always steal them out of my cups.
Yeah.
And she would like play with them, and then Alistair would come in and she'd immediately go hide and he would play with the straw, and she would like slowly come out and just like wait for him to be done, and he would like be done with the straw and she'd kind of walk up to it, but she wouldn't play with it, and she'd wait for him to completely exit the room, go find something else to play with, and then she would start playing with the straw. And I was like, Elliot, she's a battered woman. Like you're just letting him like have like an abusive relationship with this cat. And he was like, no, it's fine, whatever. And eventually, Alistair was just fucking me up, too. He would just claw the shit out of me all the time. And my legs were just bleeding all the time. And I was like, I'm not getting cut one more time by a cat. You're letting him out. He likes to be outside. He tries to get out all the time. He'll just meow. He was raised to be outside.
I've let him outside a couple times at this point, but nothing, like, consistent.
Yeah. And so finally we started letting him outside, and he was a million
Within, like,
times
a week,
better.
He was perfect. Mm-hmm. But then he started bringing cockroaches in.
Yeah, and then he would hide them in his mouth and just, like, bleh, on the floor.
But then he became a great cat. He would sleep with us at night. He'd sleep on our head. I mean, Alistair can be a really cool animal if he's
He really needed that extra focus on the outside and, like, go hunt something, go run around for a minute.
Yeah.
Go pretend like you're working through some shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then he really improved as an animal after that. Yeah. So, after dating for... How long did we date before I moved?
Probably almost a year.
After dating for... Well, no, because I moved... Yeah. Okay, so after dating for almost a year, I decided that I wanted to move... One of us needed to move to stay each other because we were dating for about a year long distance, and long distance sucks if you guys don't know that. I mean, I'm not saying I don't do it, but long distance relationships are very stressful.
And we were both students. I mean, we're still both students, but we were students at the time, and I was about to graduate, and I'm much more willing to move.
Well, not that I had any real issue with that.
No, but I'm just like, if I have to move anywhere, no matter what or when,
You've moved a lot more. Cool. You're much more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I was just in my I just finished my second semester at community college. I technically had one semester before community college, but like it was when I was 18 and I basically failed all my classes. So
and then you took like time off and then you got back into it.
Yeah, and so it was my second
semester. I was at like a year away from graduation, and the school here didn't have like the same program. I didn't think it would transfer over right.
Yeah, and so I decided, okay, screw it, I'll move because I'm still doing my undergrad stuff. It doesn't really matter where I am. So I moved to Iowa.
For a year and a half.
However, before I moved to Iowa.
What? Oh, that was before. Oh, I got Mochi.
So Kenya really wanted a kitten.
I really wanted a cat. That was like
this is after she moved out of her roommates.
Yeah. So with my roommates, all I wanted was a cat. I had one of my roommates was my boyfriend at the time, and he was like indifferent about it. He doesn't love cats, and I was like, before I broke up with him, I was trying to figure out, like, are we going to move together? Because if we are, then I would like to get a cat. And eventually, I broke up with him. I started dating Elliot. I moved in with one of our mutual friends-ish.
One of our mutual friends' girlfriends.
Yeah.
Or ex-girlfriend at the time.
I mean, okay. Even when I was talking to her, I'd always tell her that, like I was more friends with Jameson. Because she would always ask me for relationship advice between the two of them, and I'd be like, yeah, but, like...
I'm friends with Jamie, so...
If it comes down to it, and you're telling me both basically the same thing, and neither one of you is, like, clearly the shitty person, I'm probably gonna side with him. And, like, if you guys break up, I'll probably be more friends with him at this point, you know?
So, anyway, I moved in with a...
And that was when we were in, like, early college, high school, when I told her all of that. Yeah. I wouldn't ever say that to her face, like, now. But, I mean, they're not together now. Anyway, so I moved in with her. And she had a cat, and I was like, listen, before I move in with you, like, just so you know, I've been thinking about getting a cat. Cool. And she was like, yeah, cool, whatever. And I got Mochi. And she was a sweet baby, and I would go to the pound, like, once a week for several weeks, and I was about to get this, like, big, like, fat old gray cat called, like, June or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds
right. She was very cute, and then I turned around and they had a whole pen full of kittens, and one of them was all speckly on her butt, but she was a tabby, and so she was stripy like normal.
She's also pretty brown, too.
Yeah, she was very brown, very light for a tabby.
You know what? We'll put her picture and the picture of her current animals on the thumbnail of this podcast, if you guys want an idea what they look like.
On the thumbnail?
At least a thumbnail, maybe in the podcast.
I might have you help me edit it into the
that'd
video.
Be kind of fun.
But, yeah, anyway, so she was very cute, and I was like... I felt bad about it because I knew that, like, obviously all these kittens are going to get adopted. You know, they're kittens.
But not June.
But I really wanted it. But I went back, like, 2 weeks later, like, on the website, and June had been adopted, too. And they were in a no-kill shelter or anything, so I knew. And they had very good adoption rates for that kennel. Mm-hmm. Or that pound.
Well, they're the apartment, so no shit.
Well, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I got Mochi. She's a sweet baby.
Well, so the thing about Mochi is that she lived in your room. Just you and her in a room for a long time.
No, only for like a week or two. I kept her in for a whole like 2 weeks, I think. And then I moved like her litter and stuff into the bathroom, and I let her meet Edith, Emma's cat, and they like got along pretty good. But I like to keep her in my room because she would Emma would leave her door open and stuff, and her room was a lot messier than mine, and Mochi would just like go hide under her bed and like live in her like piles. Sweatpants and like trash piles of just like whatever she had laying around her room. And I would just like never see her, and that was sad. Yeah. And so I mostly kept her in my room, and she mostly stayed in my room anyway. That's where all her stuff was. That's where her food was.
And Mochi, you had a great relationship.
Yeah.
You guys still do. But Mochi would sleep on Kenya and like drape herself. I mean, she'd get conked, as you would say, and her entire she would just be knocked down. She would just sleep on your neck, and you would be snapping each other, and she would have that stupid little kitten look on her face.
She was very cute.
Yeah.
And I got her like very early, the earliest I could, like so in a kitten's life.
So she was diddle.
Very diddle.
So one time you were visiting somewhere for some holiday.
Yeah.
And Mochi had an accident.
What?
She got electrocuted.
Mochi.
I like this.
Yeah. So I was at my dad's house for Thanksgiving, and I brought Mochi for some reason. We had like driven to his house. And I think Jasmine brought Kitty too.
Yeah.
But I think she left Kitty at no, she didn't leave her at my mom. She wouldn't.
Anyway.
I don't know.
I
don't think she took her all the way to my dad's house though. I think she maybe left her at Jolene's. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But Mochi and Kitty do know each other because Jasmine was living in our same town at the time. So I would like go over when Mochi was a baby, and I would like bring her over there, and they would hang out. But they didn't like each other. Kitty is not another cat kind of girl. She is I'm the only cat in this universe. How dare you exist kind of thing. So I stopped bringing Mochi over as she got older because she was just so rowdy, and Kitty was so upset about it. And I just knew that they would be, like, fighting, and I didn't want to make Kitty sad in her own house, you know. And I felt that Jasmine and Eric were kind of apprehensive about it anyway and just, like, letting me do it because I wanted to. And I didn't want them to, like, feel sad about that, you know. So we all agreed, like, okay, no more Mochi.
So anyway.
Yeah, anyway, I had Mochi at my dad's house for Thanksgiving, like,
This isn't clear. This is all before I moved there.
Yeah. Right before you moved there.
I didn't know Mochi was a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, she was still pretty little when I got her, but.
Anyway, so she got behind the TV. We were all watching TV, and we hear like this weird like noise, and she just goes meow, like the lowest, deepest meow. That was really sad. And she like sprints out from behind the TV, and she like does it again. And then she's just like shaking her head back and forth super a lot, and like licking weird, and then she like stumbles down the stairs and just like throws up at the bottom of the stairs. And so we think she got electrocuted there.
Well, you being a new cat mom were freaking the fuck out.
I was freaking out, and then she went and hid under the couch for a while, and she was just like cool, and I cleaned up her throw up and stuff, and she came back up and she was fine, and I was like holding there and whatever, and then one of her teeth was jutting out, and it was like dark, and it was brown, and I was like, what the hell? And I was like so sad. Like immediately I was like, I'm a fucking bad mom. Like what happened? And then I found out, like I was trying to show someone it in my family, and it was gone. And then they were like, oh yeah, don't you know like kittens lose their teeth? And I was like, I did not know that. I've been freaking out. I've been casually mentioning it to everyone.
Hey, like
why didn't you tell me? Yeah. And then I felt like I had something else to talk about Mochi before you got there. I don't really remember. But basically, Elliot moved out in a little while. We asked Trevor.
Somebody came. My friend moved. Trevor. You guys know Trevor if you know DorkDate. Trevor moved into my house, and shortly after that, I moved away. And I asked if he would keep my cat for a while.
Clear your throat. You have a weird voice.
I asked if he'd keep my cat for a while because I didn't have the means to really move with her at the point.
And he was cool with it for a while. Trevor, if you're listening, still beef.
Trevor, if you're listening.
With me, I will forever hold beef with you. He was fine. He was a good cat person. He took care of her for several months. He took her to the vet. He flew her out on his own money because he had to buy a bigger cage, and then we had to pay him back for it, and it was a whole ordeal. Great job doing that. But I did not appreciate... I didn't appreciate you telling us that you were going to take care of her and then, like, casually bitch about it forever. Whatever, though. I get it. Not your cat. You didn't want to take care of it. Fine. Anyway, so...
I just edited that out. So anyway.
I'm not gonna edit it out. It's fine.
So anyway, I moved there and we brought Artemis to see
Yeah.
Moch. And at this time of the podcast, you should be seeing a picture of the first face Moch had when she saw Doofy.
Yeah.
And Moch is
That's a good face.
terrified. She is just
she's
not
a
fucking
baby.
having it.
I love Mochi.
Yeah.
And yeah, but Doofy was honestly very good. And I think that the time that she had with Trevor and Shannon, because Shannon was living here, Trevor's girlfriend, was really good because she did get to, for a while, because they had another cat, but did get to have like a very like just me and you guys kind of thing. Whereas before it was her and Alistair.
Sebastian was fine. He wasn't aggressive.
Yeah, which she hated. And yeah, so they got another cat and he wasn't aggressive. He was really good. And I think that time with just like one-on-one and then having another not so aggressive cat really helped her, because even when we got her, she was a million times less fraidy than she was when like I first met her and stuff like that. And so she got to our house, she was mostly good, she explored, and then she saw Mochi and she was mostly fine with her. And they kind of were weird with each other for a while, but now they're friends, you know? And they were basically immediately friends. And
but they never got like very friendly, which is something.
No, they weren't very friendly. They don't like cuddle, they don't like paw each other and bathe each other. They'll play and they'll hang out together, and that's it. They're just like, hey, cool, you're here, me too.
Yeah, they just exist together.
Yeah,
mostly.
they'll eat together, but that's normal. But yeah, they're friends. But it was sad too because we had her and Emma didn't want us to move her out. But it was like during the time when Trevor was like starting to complain about having to have her there.
Because he had the cat for almost a year.
Yeah, and not at that point.
Was that? I think it was pretty long.
Because we got her over spring break, which was in April, and you moved in January.
Wasn't it a whole?
No. He was only supposed to have.
No, it was. Oh, because was I only there for how many semesters were the names for? 3?
Yep, and we had our apartment by ourselves the last 2. He only had her for like 2 or 3 months.
Wasn't it in the summer though? I don't think it was spring break.
It was. Because I was trying to get her out as soon as possible because he kept messaging you, like being slightly rude about it, saying like we need more money for her food and like when are you gonna fucking take this cat and like all of these things, and I get it, stressful like I already said, but. I was trying to really push Emma, like, we already talked about this. Elliot's coming to move here. You agreed to that. You agreed to have his cat here. I just want to make sure about it all. And then she was like, well, I don't really know. But she, like, still let us do it. But she was, like, she would always tell us yes. And then, like, 20 minutes later, be like, well, but, like, are you really sure? And we're like, yeah. And then so eventually she let us get it. But then it, like, caused this huge, like, beef
Fight.
Of, like, well... whose cat's doing what and whatever, because her cat, even before we got Doofy, was like, what was she doing? There was like something going on with, she was like, one of the cats was peeing outside of the litter box, but like right outside of the litter box, and we couldn't figure out who it was. Eventually I caught her cat doing it several times. She still didn't believe me, and she was like, well, change your litter box, do this, do that. And eventually changing my litter box did help because she was just like, a couple times she didn't make it and she was like smelling the litter and thinking she was close enough. But the other time she would like be half in the litter box but have her butt pointed out, so she would like pee over the edge. And so I got enclosed litter boxes and that helped. Never an accident after that. But it was like from the get-go of me having Mochi even, it was very like, no, my cat would never do that. You know?
Your cat would. Yeah,
and she like her first solution was, well, just get puppy pads, then it's fine, you won't have to clean it up. But yeah, it shouldn't be my responsibility to clean it up. Yeah. It's your cat, and like yes, we both have cats here, and we should both mutually clean up certain areas. But I shouldn't have to clean up every time your cat pisses somewhere when I know it's your cat. And then
eventually the cats got a little aggressive, and
eventually they got aggressive.
Got
Artemis had a huge cut on her nose, and we were like, what the fuck? And Emma was like, pretty sure it was your cat that did it. And we'd like seen them play before. They were never aggressive with each other, and they like already liked each other. They were already friendly. And like when we were talking, she was like texting me from the next room, and Artemis like let out a huge howl because you like walked past her and she got scared. Like you like stepped next to her, over her to go to the bathroom, and she like jumped and like screamed, and you're like, whoa, it's okay. And she was like, oh, pretty sure I hear your cats fighting. And I was like, no, they're very friendly. That was Elliot.
Elliot's fighting the cats.
I was getting so mad about it. Whatever. Eventually it worked out. We moved out of that apartment, got our own apartment, and the kitties became much more close and cool.
Yeah. Although, that first night we moved, Holy fucking shit.
Oh,
so
horrible.
we moved an apartment, and we moved like a good chunk of our furniture over in our bed, basically. And like we had sold a lot of stuff at the old apartment because it was in the same complex. So we did in shifts. And that first night we slept there with the cats, they lost their shit. They didn't know what the deal was, where they were, what was happening, and they just yowled until like 4 a.m. Just screamed, and they'd run up in the bed and look at us and like scream in our faces, and then we tried to like pet them and soothe them, and then they would
I'd
just
like
run down.
follow them around, and then they'd just like lead me in circles around the
house. Yeah, like what's happening? Yeah, it was.
Because like normally, if they came to me tonight and did that, I would follow them, and I would end up at their food bowl.
Yeah, because they're hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'd like end up at the litter or something, and I'd scoop it. Or I'd end up at the door, and Mochi would try to be getting out.
Yeah, whatever. And so it was just insane for the entire night. And I mean, Mochi would sit there, and she was trying to burrow under you. She'd leap in the bed and sit there and just bury herself.
And she still does that sometimes,
but
it's not panicky. No, she just wants to be like, she loves being under the blanket and she loves being held, but she loves it on her own terms.
Yeah, you can't put her under the blanket.
If she's trying to do that, that is the time for it. If you try and put her there, she's like, no, fuck you. How dare you assume I would like that?
Okay
Did I ever give you any indication that this is something I like,
yeah,
guys?
It's like, yes, every day of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's crazy.
So anyway, they got better after a while.
But that whole year was like such a good kitty year. They got really close, not too close like you're saying, but they were very like
friendly.
Yeah, they were very friendly, and that's like the most I could expect from like anything. Because I like after seeing her with Alistair, you know, it was like you're a battered woman, but she got like very close to me too.
She got a little scared. She let me walk by her without sprinting and stuff like that. Artemis,
we would walk Mochi on a little leash, and we got like a little cat stroller so she could go outside without like dying, you know,
or having a leash. Because leashes just suck.
And she was pretty good about that, so she was more adventurous. And Mochi was like kind of feral. Like the way that they caught her at the pound was they caught her mom, and then the mom gave birth in the trap.
Yeah.
And so she never was that acclimated to people. So like even in that apartment and in our first apartment together with Emma, she would basically like hide on the top shelf of the closet always, and then she'd like come down and see you when she wanted, but she would just hide.
She's very cool with us, but a lot of times, and Mochi and I got this routine where I would come home from class in my last semester, and I'd come home at like 11 or 10 or 11, and I didn't have anything else for the rest of the day, and you were there to like 3 or 4 some of those days, and we would take naps together, and I'd get in the bed, and she'd come up, she'd be like, all right, we're doing this, and we would just patch and cuddle. It was too sweet. So yeah, we had a really good time with the cats those couple years. I mean, that year basically.
Yeah. And then we moved here to Arizona,
and we drove across country with 2 cats in our car.
22 hours, guys, one shot.
Driving with the 2 cats in the car was basically great.
It was fine the entire time until hour maybe like 18. I would say they were absolutely fine. We talked to our vets, and our vet at the time, and they gave us like a sedative. And we really wanted it for Artemis because she is very like fraidy, and like the couple times that we took her to the vet, she will like pee in her kennel.
Yeah, she gets really anxious. And we didn't want to have pee in the car the entire time we're driving.
Yeah,
it would be awful.
But we bought like puppy pads and lined it with that and like towels.
We bought
and
a portable litter box.
We bought a portable litter box. Obviously, they didn't use it because they were like freaked. Like you can't expect a cat to like feel like they feel comfortable enough to go out and do the litter. You know. They're not gonna do that, and like they didn't even like drink or eat. We like offered them, and they were like, okay, but like when can we get out though? So we ended up giving them like a test run. They told us to do like a trial while we were still in town, just in case like someone had a reaction or something. And we did it, and it was really funny. And Mochi. So they were both. We gave it to them. It's supposed to take like 30 minutes to an hour to kick in or something.
Within 20 minutes, Artemis was knocked on her ass.
Yeah, they were both like very clearly like something's up with them. You know, they're like laying, but they're like really spreading out and like really like we have like this cat tree. Because
it wasn't sedatives that were gonna knock them out. It was sedatives that were supposed to
just chill them out, not put them to sleep or anything. And so they would like be on this cat tower that we had at the time and just like slumping off slowly but not doing anything about it. But like really like dreamily looking outside. Like,
yeah, like Artemis was like drooling, like her mouth was halfway open. I have a picture of it. It's really funny. Hey, actually right now.
Yeah,
there's that picture.
Was. She was like weird, like droopy chin kind of. I forgot about that. She was funny. And Mochi was the same way. But we did it, and then we gave them like a test drive. So we put them in the cage that we used to drive them in, and then we drove them like around Ames a little bit.
And we got some food while we were out.
Yeah, and we got some food while we were out. And then they didn't like that. They were not chilled out enough to be okay with it. And eventually, when we started driving, they chilled out. But they did that anyway when we would drive.
Yeah.
It really did help Artemis.
But Mochi was weird. She was almost like fighting through it.
Yeah, she was like, Artemis was, hey, I don't like this. Why are you putting me in here? And then when she got in there, she was like, okay, guess I'm laying in here now.
Yeah.
And then Mochi was like clawing at the top of the cage, like upside down, climbing on it, like putting her arms out as far as possible to get us.
And, like,
just screaming the entire time. Yeah. And so we were like, okay, you know what?
Mochi's better normal.
Yeah, Mochi's better normal in the car. I've driven with her several times. I know that. So we got some food, and then we drove back, and they kind of, like, walked around for a while, chilled out. Mochi was still, she's, like, less chilled out now than she was before, and so she, like, lost all inhibitions and just came up
and just stole some fucking bacon off her plate.
Boldly stole my bacon straight off my plate. Not even a piece of bacon. She took the entire strip of bacon.
It was big bacon, too.
And,
it was like...
and ran with it, slid off the table.
Yeah, she was, like, drunk. It was great.
And then just hid it in a corner.
Steals food.
Got it like all hairy and gross, and then just left it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Mochi never ever steals food. She never gets on the table, and so it was
never.
very like, what the fuck, Mochi?
She'll like come. She loves to smell food,
Yeah,
or like your breath after you eat. She loves
you can let her
getting
smell
in
food,
your
and she won't even
face.
try to lick it or take a bite of it.
No,
Almost
never.
Never. You can just like hold a piece of food to her face.
She was really into it this time.
Yeah, it was so funny. So no, we drove back, and they were pretty good, except the last 4 hours where the cats were just screaming the entire time.
Screaming
just
the entire
yowling
time.
horribly.
And Artemis wasn't even that bad. She was yowling, but she wasn't doing anything.
It was mostly Mochi.
Mochi was forcing her face up against the wall, putting both paws out, clawing my shoulders, clawing
like reaching
the seat,
from the back seat
pulling
out of their
herself,
kennel,
trying to like just pull herself through the cage almost.
It was
bad.
And we were falling asleep at the time, and I mean, so
it was like we got back at what 3 a.m.
2 something, I think.
Yeah.
So we actually made the ride in like 22 hours. I'm not sure how that affects time change or whatever, but I wouldn't recommend ever doing that ride with 2 animals, or by yourself without taking a break. You should stop 8 hours before and do the next day or something. I mean, it's just not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved here, and the cats adapted here pretty quick, honestly. Side note, when we were first...
Mochi didn't really. She took a couple weeks.
Yeah, Artemis lived here before.
Yeah, Artemis was basically cool right away. Mochi took a very long time. And she basically stayed hid in one of the bedrooms for a very long time. And then even after that, like, we ended up getting more animals after living here, spoiler. And even before we got them, she still was very, like, spent most of her time in that room.
Yeah.
And just, like, hid in there. But we let her out a couple times here, and then we decided that wasn't a very good idea. Because we heard her get into a fight one night, and there's, like, 1 million cats all around our house. Just, like, strays.
I think we baby her a lot, and she doesn't really need to be outside in the same way that Alistair needed to be outside until we basically decided that she's not an outdoor cat. We were talking about it.
And she doesn't, like, need it, but she, like, goes up to the door still sometimes, and she's like
months
hey,
later,
I just want to go outside. And she'll just go outside and, like, walk around our yard a minute and whatever, but she always wants to go out at night, which is when all the other cats come to our yard.
Yeah. So, real quick side note. When we were first driving here, we stayed the night at Kenya's sister's house, just because we had already cleaned out our apartment and moved out.
Yeah.
And so we just, like, stayed there for the night before we drove out. And we had the cats.
Shout out to Jasmine.
Yeah, thanks, Jasmine.
Pregnant at the time, helped us clean out and move out all of our stuff.
Yeah, for real. Thanks, Jasmine. And so, thanks, Jasmine, for letting us stay there, too, because we brought the 2 cats over, and we kept them in the office, which was where we were sleeping, because we had our bed in there. It was their bed. Long story. And for some reason, during that night, Artemis forgot who Mochi was.
Yeah, and she was
Doofy,
just
if that's
growling the whole time, hissing,
like really aggressive
out
at this other cat. And Mochi was looking at her like, "Bro, what's the deal, man?"
Yeah, and Mochi was crazy. She's in one room, she's just bouncing off each wall, trying to figure out what this room's about, you know. Yeah. And they were storing a bunch of stuff in there at the time too.
It was very busy.
And it was just like, yeah, there was too much shit for her. And Artemis was super mad. And I've stayed at my sister's house several times, and I know, and, like, with her in my life several times, obviously, and I know that she snores, and so at one point in the middle of the night, I woke up thinking, like, man, she's snoring really loud, I can hear her all the way in here, and then I realized it's just Doofy growling across the room, and I'm like, oh my god, Doofy.
Yeah, it was weird, because the cat, she knew us, kind of. And so she sat by she started coming up to me, which she never does, and she was like, let me pet her and like rub it into me, and then she started growling.
And then
like,
I would try and pet her, and she would like jump and like hiss and growl. And
so
stuff.
she had like a whole night of insanity where she just forgot who everybody was and switched all roles. It was really bizarre.
Crazy. And then so after we got here, they were fine when we put them in the kennel. Absolutely fine.
As if
just
they
laying
had
right
not been
next to
fighting
each
the
other.
entire night.
Like we were recommended to get like a dog-sized kennel to put both of them in there and then like be able to pat it and stuff so that they were comfy and they could like get up and stretch out and stuff like that. So we got like a fairly large kennel for both of them to put in our back seat. And they were like cheek to cheek, just like sleeping the whole day, loving each other. It was fine. And then when we got here, we let them out and same thing. Artemis was just growling up a storm at Mochi, like not even remembering who she is for some reason. I don't know.
It was weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're better now.
So we lived here for a couple months.
And then we decided, hey, you know what?
We should get a dog.
A lot of this is spurred on because my sister, Rebecca, who lives here, has a dog named Nala.
Well, a lot of this was because in Ames, we lived right next to the dog park, and everyone had a dog at our apartment. Yeah. And we were like, we should get a dog, But the kennel, or the pound that we lived next to was also right there. And it never had any dogs, so we never like had an easy opportunity. We lived in an apartment. But if we had seen a good dog there, we would have gotten a dog.
I don't think I really didn't want a dog in the apartment. I didn't.
I didn't either. That was my main thing. But you were always.
I wanted a yard when we had it.
I
didn't want to take the dog on a fucking leash every time I go to the bathroom. We have a front door where we can just let the dog out.
It's fine.
So anyway, so we moved here and so we already got the puppy fever beforehand, and when we finally moved here, my sister has a really cool dog named Nala. Nala's really well behaved. We were hanging out with her, and this dog was just loving on us and letting us hold it. And we're like, dude, let's do this. Let's have this.
Yeah, and that really helped because like your parents don't really interact with their dog as much as she does, you know.
Yeah, Rebecca's dog is like her baby.
My parents were never really good to their animals and stuff, and so it was nice seeing someone who I know I would act like that with my own dogs.
And seeing how the dog responded.
Yeah, so like someone who was like loving and nurturing to their pets, and like seeing how the dog was with that. And she was like one of the best dogs I know. Like very well behaved, very
too sweet,
very good listening, very cute, very sweet.
She got smiley eyes.
Just a nice
her forehead
dog.
wrinkles up. She's she's got a pit bull, some pit bull in her. She's got some German Shepherd, and maybe a little bit
Shepherd,
of
do you think?
I think so, yeah, and maybe a little bit of Akita. Because she got the dorsal
tail. Or like Chow.
Or Chow. That's what I was trying to say, Chow. Yeah, she's just got the stupidest little smile. I love Nala.
She's very cute.
And so we decided, let's get a dog. And so we were going to get a dog. And
we visited the pound several times, several different pounds too.
Yeah,
and
some
then
sketchy
eventually we saw this brother and sister pair of huskies.
Then one visually I thought was prettier, the girl.
The girl, yeah. I thought the girl was prettier too. She had like a whiter face.
And she was much lighter of a dog. And then the boy was black and white. And they were both, they were pretty. We didn't really know the age because we never raised huskies. So we didn't know how old they were. And
it said that they were 2 on the paper.
On the thing, it said they were 2 years old. Yeah, and so we're like, oh, okay. You know what? This is kind of what we talked about. We wanted a dog that wasn't super old, so we still had some life left in it, but they were mostly housebroken and kennel trained and stuff like that. So awesome. But these dogs were in such high demand, and they were still trying to figure out if there was an owner that we were not allowed to see them at all. Yeah, it was weird. Like most pounds let you hang out with the dog.
They raffle it if more like a certain amount of people like ask about them, or if they're just a certain breed, they anticipate that a lot of people will do it. And so you're not, if your dog is up for raffle, you're not allowed to see them at all beforehand. You just have to wait.
Yeah, and so we only able to see them at the kennel, which sucked, but the dog's pretty cute. And so we were seeing these dogs, and the sister howled. And this other one, the boy, he had little howls, little barks, and he'd go like and stuff like that, and it was very cute. And so we were into these dogs. We signed up for the raffle,
and they were very like docile, and they would let me like put my little fingers through, and they would come sniff them and let me rub their face.
They had good personalities for dogs.
They were very chilled out.
Yeah, and so we signed up for the raffle, and the entire time before then, my aunt had been visiting, and my mom was also part of this process, kind of. And so we said, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're all going to show up for the raffle, and we're all going to individually apply for this dog, or each dog. We're all going to apply for, and we'll just take whichever one. Because we didn't really care between the girl and the guy. I think we even wanted the girl at the time.
Yeah, we wanted the girl, but we mostly wanted a dog.
We just wanted a dog in general. We were okay with both. And so when we showed up, we're looking, and there's lots of people here. And when the kennel was opening, because it was first come, first serve.
And we really wanted them to be at that age, too.
Yeah, so we wanted a 2-year-old dog.
We didn't want a puppy. We didn't want to deal with any puppy shit. And we wanted him to be young enough where we could still, like, if he wasn't trained, work on that with
Yeah,
him,
exactly. And so we got there, and there was lots of people outside because you had to come when it was opening. It was really, truly first come, first serve.
Yeah.
And it opened up, and they're like, okay, everybody else come inside if you're not here for the raffle. And if you're here for the raffle, let me know.
There was a million people there, and we were really nervous.
Yeah,
and the whole time before, we were at Barnes & Noble, like, waiting for it to open up, and we were looking at, like, dog books, and we were, like, both, like, crazy nervous, like, going back and forth to the bathroom.
Yeah, like, maybe we're not getting this dog. And so after everybody went inside, we realized it was just our group of people and then one other person.
Yeah, and she wanted the girl.
And so so what happened is we said, you know what? Never mind. We're not all joining this raffle. We'll just take the guy. And so there was no raffle anymore. And
then we had like a whole thing of like doing paperwork and everything like that, and they had them both in surgery at the time, so we had to come back later. And when we did, we finished our paperwork, and they were like, hey, good thing you showed up at the time you did. There were like 100 people like an hour later, and they were like, no, you guys all missed it. Like,
you had to be there when it opened.
Why don't all of you know this?
Yeah, because they tell you that every time you have to be there when it opens.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we came back a couple hours later, picked up Mako.
What was his name? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I don't even think he had a different name.
He had a different name on his paper. Loki.
Oh yeah,
his name was Loki,
Not
which
so
is
bad of a
no,
name for
it's a pretty good name. It made him sound evil, and like we had taken pictures of him in the kennel, and the first thing your mom said was, "Oh, he looks like he'll rip your fucking face off," and I was like, "Okay, well."
We're not gonna name him Loki.
Fuck you, and we're not naming him Loki. Like I don't know anything about this dog. Maybe he will rip your face off, but that's like still.
Huskies have intense gaze because they have the eyebrows and they got the.
They got the eyebrows and they're dark.
He has brown eyes.
So he has brown eyes.
I think they'd be a lot crazier.
I think it would be scarier if he had blue eyes. Yeah.
So,
I get it. I was just like very like mad at the time. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make this like the nicest dog anyway, and his name is not gonna contribute to how you see him.
So we named him Mako after the Legend of Korra. There's a character named Mako. Also, there's a voice actor named Mako. Whatever.
Named after.
Spelled like Mako. Spelled
M-A-K-O.
But his name is Mako, like the taco.
Mako. Taco.
Where is he? Mako.
He's just chilling.
Well,
He's sleeping in the hall. I see him.
Cute. So we got him that day. We went there, and the vet was pulling him into the room, like dragging him, and he was like doped up and terrified and like not interested. I mean, he clearly had been at a surgery for like a half hour basically, and he would not come to the car with us. We had to drag him, and he was
He would just lay down, and then he'd pee a little on himself, and then he'd walk like 2 feet, and he'd just lay down.
Yeah, he was like, okay, I don't want to do anywhere.
And I was still like I said, I'm not like that much of a natural dog person. If I see a dog on the street, I'm not like, oh yes, a dog. I would love to pet that dog, you know.
Yeah, you were very anxious during this whole part.
Yeah, and like that was like a lot of our initial training of him too. Is Elliot would like let him go, and I'd be like, if I was that person, I would be furious that you were letting your dog come at me, because I'm like not into dogs and I'm kind of afraid of dogs, and if you're just like letting him kind of jump at me, you know, whatever. And he was still like a puppy, so he was very excited because
rewind. You're getting way ahead, dude.
I am rewinding.
Because
on his paperwork when we initially filled it out, they changed it from 2 years to 10 months.
So we found out that we had a 10-month-old dog instead of a 2-year-old dog.
Yeah. So Elliot plopped him in the car. I'm like nervously looking back at him.
Yeah, and
I drove home. Yeah,
you drove home.
I drove home so you could take care of him in case something happened, because I felt like I wouldn't
know what to do.
Yeah, know what to do.
We took him home, and for a long time after that, he was very subdued. He just wanted to lay in corners. He would lay like in the corner, like where the wall meets the floor, just like right against the wall, and he was just happy doing that. And he would look at us. We'd call him over, and he'd be like, "Nah, I'm good. I don't really want that."
For a long time, we kept him. Like we had this dog bed that we bought, and we would tell him Mako bed, and he would go to it, and then like he knew that, or he just saw where we were pointing or whatever, and he just laid there, and he laid there the entire first day because he was like super drugged out, and he like soaked it with pee.
Yeah,
and we had to wash it, and then we bought a second bed so that we could like cycle him out and stuff. And for like the first week he just stayed there, and then
not like 100% of the time, but
no, but like that was like where he would go.
Yeah.
And he was like kennel trained and everything already. We keep him in the kennel at night because of the kitties, so that they don't because they don't love him even still. They're getting better, but they don't like. Especially at first, they were like, "Whoa, what the fuck is that?" And they both like came up and like saw him, and then they were like, "Whoa, okay," and then they just kind of never came up and saw him again.
Yeah. But yeah, and so we had a real struggle. I mean, not a real struggle, probably a normal struggle. We had a very hard struggle for the first couple weeks, probably the first month. How long did we have him before he was still peeing?
Probably at least a month.
About a month, where he was having really bad bathroom incidents, and it was rough. I mean, there was one day where he had like 4 something accidents in the house, which again probably doesn't sound that much, but for the amount for having a mostly carpeted house and the amount of time we were dealing with this,
and like not expecting to have that issue at all, like thinking like the whole reason we wanted him to be old enough was because we wanted him to be potty trained and everything,
and he just wasn't.
Yeah. And so like the worst day we had was he like immediately had an accident in the house, cleaned it up. He decided to then turn around, go find our office and take a big old dump. And then he like went and right after that peed in our living room. And then I like am cleaning all of this up, and then I go into where the other room where the kitties like to hang out, and I look at their litter box, and there's just like pee. There's a pee stain that Mako is now sniffing that is still wet, like a cat just went there. And then there's like poop in the office. Like they decided to just pee and poop everywhere too, because I think we had just moved their litter box to a different room.
Everybody had just been thrown in a whack. It was awful.
Each and every one of our animals peed or pooped
and
around
our cats
our house.
Never go outside the litter box. And they throw up. But
I was just so upset. I was like, oh my god, why did we do this?
He broke our cats.
Yeah, and then the next day we ended up getting like a carpet cleaner. We cleaned the carpets, and we had one accident only after that, and it was like several weeks after, and it was your mom. He was like jumping up on her, and she was like petting him down real hard, and then he like peed like 2 dribbles on the floor, and I was like, oh, and we never had any accidents like that. And I cleaned it up, and it was fine. Never had any accidents.
He still has accidents at other people's houses
for some reason. At other people's houses,
but never at our house, and
even that he's getting a lot better at too.
Yeah, vastly improved.
Like at your parents, he hasn't had an accident in the last 3 times we visited.
And then one of the things you figured out and went through with is that you got bells for the door. And so now there's bells on the door, like jingle bells.
Like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, which I'm sure you guys have heard us talk about or heard. And he rings them with his nose, and we let him outside, and he trained himself on it in like 2 days. It's awesome.
We like put him up to it, and we tried to put his paw, but then we realized if we do that, then he's gonna scratch up the door, and our door's pretty already scratched up from other dogs being around throughout the house's life. And so he will jump on it when he's trying to get back in if we're not out there with him, because we have like a yard, so we just like, well, if we don't go out, then we'll just like let him out.
Yeah, but now he gets the thing where he knows that he can go outside when it rings the bell, so he'll ring the bell and then walk outside and then just jump in the door like, what? I just want to see out there.
Yeah.
So after he goes pee, if he like rings a lot afterwards, we're like, listen, chill out, all right?
Because he just likes exploring, especially when it gets to be like nighttime and all the birdies are out. He loves birds.
Yeah. And so anyway, we had a great time with him, and he's doing a lot better. I mean, he's great now. He's totally a family dog.
Even so, like my sister, like I mentioned, was pregnant when we moved out, and she had her baby late summer this year. And we had Rebecca, who we already mentioned, watch him during that time, and we gave her the bells. And then a month later, after we had been back for a while, we had like a birthday party, and her dog Nala was here, and she had trained herself on the bells too from having them at Rebecca's.
Yeah, they're really smart about the bells. I think it's just such a great correlation because they're curious what they are, so they ring them. We immediately do something, and then it's like, oh, I get this huge reward of being outside. Yeah, it's a very fast.
And it was funny because like I let Mako out every single time that he rings the bells, and like not as much anymore if he is like doing it and I know that he just relieved everything
he's got
he
a good
could.
Bladder now. I mean, he's a gallbladder now.
Yeah. And if he's just like doing it over and over and over, I'll maybe tell him like, no, hang on, and I'll play with him or something. But it was funny because Rebecca was here and Nala was ringing, and I would let her out, and she'd be like, no, she just wants to go outside. But every single time she would go out, and she would immediately pee. And it was funny, too, because, like, Mako and Nala just love each other so much.
They play so hard.
And he just, like, immediately loves her, and it's just very cute. I wish they could hang out more. But they were both here during that time, and she would go out, immediately pee. He would see that she was peeing, go pee, but constantly watch her. And as soon as she, stood back up, because she was squatting. But as soon as she stood back up and started walking away, he would immediately, like, run. Like, okay, we're done peeing.
Yeah, they're very
Or
cute
she would,
together.
like, go poop, and he would be like, oh, okay. And then he'd, like, kind of putz around the yard and, like, pee, like, see maybe if he had to poop. Yeah. But he always followed exactly what she was doing.
Very cute.
Very cute.
So yeah, and so Mako got a lot better. And then he's
a very good boy.
Yeah, he's got some issues, but all dogs do. His thing is he for a long time he liked to jump. Mm-hmm. He would get very excited. Now huskies are very handsy dogs. Mm-hmm. They are
pawing at everything all the time.
There's tons of videos of huskies smacking people in the face because they
always.
They are very feet engaged, and so he's got a lot better at jumping. He almost never does that anymore. And what he does now is he talks. He's very, very talkative. He does his little kind of half howls. He almost never barks.
But it's not like a yippy, barky kind of dog. It's like every morning we'll wake up and we'll let him out of his kennel and he'll be like, "Hey, good morning."
Yeah, and he goes, "Burr, burr."
And
it's just
then
lots of like.
if we ever leave, we keep him kenneled too. Just because like we
shit.
know that he'll destroy the house.
We keep a lot of toys, so he never fucks with the house.
He hasn't destroyed anything in the house yet, but there have been a couple times where I'll catch him like starting to chew on the carpet or like
chew on the wall a little bit.
I just know if we left him, he would do something. And he likes the kennel too. He feels safe in there. It's not ever a punishment, you know.
Smart.
Like I did a lot of research on kennel training beforehand, and I know he's already been kennel trained because he was so good at it when we first got him. You know, he had to have been, or he's just like very good of a dog. I don't know. But what was I trying to say? Do you remember about him being? Oh yeah, if we let him out of the kennel when we get like back home from school or the store or something, he'll be like very.
You look up husky videos. All huskies are very talkative. It's a very husky thing, and he's not a full husky. He's a husky mix. He's got what I think is a border collie. What Kenny thinks is collie in there.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got some other stuff in there. He's a good looking boy. He's black and white. He's very poofy. He's got brown eyes and.
He's a sweet boy.
He's a sweet boy. And
he's only getting better and better. He's getting better at every single thing we're trying to teach him.
Except for chasing cats.
Yeah.
So.
But that's harder to teach because, like, sit, I'm teaching him every single time.
I'm not faulting us for it. I'm just saying he's bad at chasing cats.
So our cats and him never really got along, like I already said. He's never, like been bad at them or, like tried to hurt them or anything.
He just chases them. He's excited about them.
They'll see him try and run, and then he'll follow.
So the thing is that we eventually had to sequester the cats to a different room because he would, 1, eat their food, and 2, eat their litter.
It wasn't sequester. It was they chose to be there, and it's the room that they always hung out in, and we eventually, at first, we were keeping their food in a different room so that they would have to venture out and see him.
But he would eat the food.
But he started eating their food and getting really sick from it. And then he would also eat their litter and
fuck that.
Also get sick from it, but also like drag it all around the house. And so we eventually put that just like in the room with them, and then they come out at night and everything, and they know that he's in his kennel. And they'll come out during the day. Sometimes Mochi fucking
climbed out under him last night.
I'm telling you, they're getting better. You know? But for a while it wasn't. And so the solution we had that we also read online is like a common thing is to put up like a see-through baby gate. And so they can all see each other, smell each other, and they love that. They're always like nose to nose,
but not
with each other.
touching really.
Yeah.
So that's getting a lot better.
But sometimes touching though too.
In my experience, young animals can really change the dynamics of a household, and so I thought, I mean, I batted around this idea. Let's either get a new puppy or a new kitten because we live in a home now. It's not an apartment, and we'll probably be here for a significant portion of our
And I was like, you know what? I would love for Mako to have another dog. I would love that. But he's still a puppy, and I don't want to get another puppy.
Yeah, we're in college.
And it's expensive, and it's a huge time investment.
Yeah, dogs are massive time
investments. And it's only going to make our cats matter.
Exactly. I mean, on the off chance the cats are okay with the puppy, which I think they would be. Yeah. And so we decided, hey, listen, maybe we'll get a kitten. And so one day we were at PetSmart, and guess what? They were selling kittens.
Yeah.
And so you kind of talked me into it.
Yeah.
And we got a kitten.
Because you'd been talking me into it. Yeah. And so I was like, it makes sense. Like, if he's able to see, like, okay, these cats are part of my family, you know, and this cat is, like, letting me hang out with
he would treat the cats like he treats a dog. When he meets another dog, he's excited, very excited, immediately tries to chase after it, and then when he smells it, he kind of leaves it alone.
Yeah. Well, and that's how he is. The few times when he's been with the kitties, he smells them, and he walks away or gets very playful. So Artemis, specifically, Doofy Girl, will see him and then kind of get into like a little ball, and she'll get down with her paws out, and that's classic body language for puppies playing. So he also gets down with his paws out. And then he starts like doing little howls at her, and she's like, what? And then she'll like hiss, and he doesn't understand hiss at all, and she'll be growling, and even in dogs he doesn't understand growling. She'll start batting at him, and then huskies are very handsy. He'll bat back. And he never hits her or anything. He just gets near her, and even like when we take him to other dogs at the dog park and stuff, when he's doing that, he just gets close. He never ever like hits someone unless they're like really playing rough, and it's usually the other dog initiating that, you know.
Yeah, and so we decided let's get a new kitten. So we got a new kitten. This is a couple weeks ago at this point.
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks ago.
2 or 3, I think. We got it to your dad before your dad came here, so almost a month.
He came 2 weeks ago.
Was it? Mm-hmm. So anyway, we got a new kitten, and we wanted a little boy, but the cat we saw there.
Elliot wanted a little boy.
You were okay with having a boy too, because we
was fine with it. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, and so we had a girl kitten instead. We have 3 girl cats now, and her name is Fella. Fella after a character in Name of the Wind. It's a book series by Patrick Rothfuss, or it's a book by Patrick Rothfuss. Anyway, we want to name our girl husky that. If we ever got one, we didn't, so we got a boy, and so we decided let's keep the name because it's a cute name. We like it.
Yeah.
And so Fella is a gold little kitten. She's very short fur, very little. And Mako loves her. Mako loves her so much that he treats her kind of like a toy. And Mako.
Yeah, so he really loves. So she's just.
She's
tiny,
very chilled out.
She's very chilled out. She was a little weird when we first got her, obviously, but within a day, she's just like, oh, you're all here, whatever. So Mako comes up to her and he'll nuzz her. No, is that a thing?
Nose her?
Yeah, I don't know. Junks her with his nose.
He'll basically toss her around with his nose.
Yeah, and she's just so light that she just kind of flies everywhere.
So he'll trying to sniff her butt and flipping her over, and she's just like, all right, this is my life now.
Okay, I'm being flipped. And then he'll lightly lick her and stuff.
Maybe even nibble a little bit.
Maybe nibble. We can't tell, and so we're just telling him no, and taking them apart. And so it's just kind of really not working out how we wanted.
We're a little bit worried about it. And then he also, when he gets really excited, he'll leap at her, and he's held her down with his paw before.
Yeah,
once he picked her up in his mouth.
Mm-hmm. She went into the bathroom because she's very not that afraid of him. She'll just come out in the middle of the day, and then he'll see her and come and nuzzle her and lick on her, and then I'll say, hey Mako, no, and then he'll hold her down with the paw, or he'll try and pick her up and move her away from me. And he's always been very gentle about it, but I'm I'm just worried that it's
he's gentle as a dog.
He's gentle with his toys too.
Yeah,
and then he lightly just keeps chewing on them until they fall apart.
Yeah, he'll pull tags off and limbs out, and we think, man, her ears look just like tags.
Yeah.
So, as far as Fella responding, she's doing a great job.
Yeah, and he's getting a lot better.
He's doing pretty good, sir.
If I have her on my lap, he's very respectful. And he's very good at knowing no. But if she gets down and she's running around, then he is weird about it. But yesterday I came in and she was on the office chair just sleeping, laying, and he was very excited about it. He saw her, but he just sat and waited. And he would run around the office chair to get different looks at her, but he never even put his nose on her, and he could have easily.
Yeah, but then she came down, he did all that.
But he could have easily done it there too.
All I'm saying is that we're working on it.
Yeah. Work in progress, but it's going well, all things considered.
Mom, do you have anything to add to this situation?
Oh, hello, are you back?
Nope, being a silent boy today.
Sweet
Either way,
boy.
so that's all our animals at this point in our life.
We love them all. I'm going to make all of them in Sims.
You're
What? Okay, so the ones that we currently have. So Mochi, Fella, Doofy, Mako.
Yeah.
Too many animals.
And then we're going to edit this so you guys can see pictures of everybody. Assuming I can get pictures of some of them. I'm sure you don't have pictures of the original cat. No. But you have pictures of most animals at some point.
I don't even have any access to pictures of Nimbus.
No one's had uploaded any?
Uploaded? No.
Oh, you have the... Well, either way, we'll figure it out. We'll give you guys what you can. So, this is a podcast very all around the place. Not exactly like our normal podcast, but hey, what the hell, man. Variety's the spice of life.
Animals.
Yeah, that's our animals.
If you think you'd be a good pet owner...
Oh, I forgot real quick. I
had one.
I had a couple betas over the year. Lan always had them here for me, named Einstein. Beta fish.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I also had praying mantises as one of my bugs.
I used to catch caterpillars. Can you believe that about me? I hate bugs.
Yeah, caterpillars are less freaky than most bugs.
Not really.
Also freakier in some ways.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, this is DorkDate. This isn't normally what we do, but we'll do more of it. We've got a couple podcasts.
Yeah, we got a couple, more personal things. Most of the time we do reviews on stuff, but...
More discussion, things
we kind of just wanted to chill out and talk about the loves of our life.
Our pets and pups and stuff like that. So, yeah. Listen, if you guys happen to be really into this video, show us some pictures of your animals. Comment some links. We'd love to see them. So that's basically it. Anything else you want to add? Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, if you're watching or if you're listening to this on SoundCloud, it's available on YouTube, and that's where the potential, not 100% promise, pictures of all of the animals will be.
They're going to be there. I'll edit it.
Okay. But, so yeah, if you wanted to see the pictures of the animals, go check out the YouTube video. And we do Let's Plays every day of the week, so if you want any of that.
Not Sundays.
Yeah, you're right. Every weekday, I should have said.
Or Saturdays. But Saturdays we have podcasts. Almost every week we have a podcast on Saturday. So,
we only took one break so far.
Yeah, which you won't even know because...
Yeah.
Backlog.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess that's it. Catch you guys later. check out our other stuff. Let us know what you want to hear more of. Or don't. It's whatever.
Bye.
Bye.